Good evening, gentle and lady men. Moderate Fanatic back with you today. And today we're going to look at, on the review board, the Mora CraftLine Robust. This is a 4.1 inch blade and about a 4.5 inch long handle wrapped in butylene type rubber like is used on a screwdriver or a power tools and stuff like that. And one of the advantages of this is the fact that it breaks down with skin oil contact. When your skin oil gets on it from your hands, the butylene type rubber breaks down a little bit and this knife becomes more grippy as it goes. Now, yes, eventually that butylene will wear out, but I've had this knife for 4 or 5 years now, and it's got a little bitty tiny crack here. That's not from any kind of stress. That's I think I got something hung on it or something that scratched it, and it's just got a little break there, but that's not from any kind of twisting or anything. It's not failing. That's just some scratches on it. But anyway, that butylene grip holds up good, and it gets more grippy as time goes by. So I like that. But anyway, 4.1 inch long carbon steel blade. It has a double saber grind on it, also called a Scandinavian saber grind, also called a Scandi grind. I like saber ground knives. I do not like double bevels. I do not like the it's just such a pain to sharpen double bevels sometimes, and I don't like that little bitty edge. I like to have a single taper, a single angle, and it works better for me. But this is carbon steel, the CraftLine Robust. I forget the metric measurement, but it's about 3/16 thick laminated steel, nice and strong, zero flex in this knife. It does have the tapered tang on it, as most Scandinavian knives do, not just a Mora. It has, I'm going to talk about that more in just a minute. It's got a drop point on it, but it holds up good, sharpens good. That carbon steel is so much better than stainless. Yeah, you have to make sure you wipe the sweat off of it, and really about twice a year I'll wipe a little oil on it. Sometimes when I sharpen it, I will wipe some oil on it, but very rarely. The beauty of having it in this sheath is that it's not getting sweat all over it all the time, and it doesn't need an extreme amount of cleaning. It holds up good. They've been making knives out of carbon steel for thousands of years. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, speaking of sheaths, that's one thing I do not like. I like to have a rigid or semi-rigid sheath. I don't like them wrapped in the ballistic nylon like so many people make these days, because it just gets hung up on everything, rips, frays, and I just don't like it. I just don't like the ballistic nylon sheaths. But one thing I don't like about this knife, one thing I do not like about the sheath on this knife is these buttons that you can connect other knife sheaths to it with. They are not universal. Mora has several models, even on their lower end knives, all in the same price range. Each one of these buttons is different, and they don't all. Some of the different shaped buttons will hook in to various sheaths, but some of them won't. And I don't understand why they don't have a universal system, or at least a system that's universal to each price point, because Mora does have low to very, very high end knives. The CraftLine is the lowest of their low end, but it's made out of the same carbon steel. They don't use a lower quality carbon steel. It's still very good, very strong, holds an edge well. Again, I like carbon steel because of that. The edge holds up good. It doesn't quite hold up as long as stainless steel, but when I'm sharpening, it's literally half the time, though, to put that edge right back on it. It's not as hard as the Sandvik steel that they have, but it's much easier to sharpen, and I prefer carbon steel for that reason, because of it's just so much easier to maintain. And I just honed this knife on the steel. I don't usually hone knives like this on a steel, but I did it today. But this knife holds up good. It's taken a lot of beating, a lot of abuse, and it's still nice, straight. Haven't had any trouble. That nice thick, right at 3/16 inch thick blade is very heavy duty. It's been through a lot. This knife has been through a lot. I've used it in farm work, air conditioning work, carpentry, all manner of work I've used this knife for, and it has held up good with no problem. The grip's fine, nothing's loose. It's held up good. Now, about this little tapered little, it's not really little. It's not as little as people make it out to be. This rat tail tang is people sort of disparage it. They talk bad about it for that. Here's the thing. The Scandinavians, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they have been making knives like that for hundreds upon hundreds of years. Like if you go pay $300, $400 for a handmade Puko knife, it's going to have that tapered tang in it. Now I hear that all the time. I hear Mora's getting knocked all the time, but Hella uses the same knife, and Hellas are 3, 4, 5 times the price of Mora's, and they are slightly better. They are actually a lot better knives. The Hella GT is one of the finest knives on this planet, but they're not going to. Here's the thing. They're not for beating on. I hear that all the time. Well, that slender tang, I don't know if I can baton with it. We used to call that taking your knife and hitting it and splitting off a piece of wood with it. But these days it's called batoning. So I don't know if I want to baton with it. Here's the thing. That's not what a knife is for. You watch these Survivor TV shows and all that stuff, and I've watched some of them. I've watched Dual Survival. I've seen Survivor Man. Everybody knows Bear Grylls and Les Stroud and Cody Lundin. All them. My wife and I used to watch Man, Woman, Wild. She used to love watching that. So I've watched a few of them. But remember, those are entertainment. And that minimalist survival television show you've been watching, it's entertainment. Your knife is not meant to be, and they're trying to show you some kind of great desperate situation. But I recommend, you want to learn about survival, go watch Survival Russia. Lars knows what he's talking about, and he'll tell you the same thing that I've always said. Survival is not about what you can do with how little. It's about what you're never willing to be separated from. Okay, you always keep your tools with you. You don't allow yourself to be separated. Like, there are 3 things that I have in my pocket. I'll show you one day on a future video. There are 3 things that I carry with me wherever I'm going, whether I'm going to the mall, to church, to school, wherever, that are always in my pocket. And you could dump me off in the middle of the woods and I would be fine for a month with just those 3 things. I'll show you someday. But anyway, knives are not meant to be beat and banged on. So instead of going and paying $200 for a knife that you believe, and that's all you do, let me be so blunt here, and that's all you do is believe that it's going to hold up better. It's not, because it's not made to be beat on. Before you go pay $200 for some kind of survival grade knife that you can baton with, that's a stupid word. Stick. Isn't that what that means? Stick? I'm going to stick this. What the crap does that mean? But before you go do all that, go buy a $14 made in China camp axe. You want to split wood, go buy a little 12-ounce, 14-ounce camp axe that's very lightweight, compact. It can fit in almost any pocket or in any bag. That's what you do. Don't go beating your knife to death, because you're going to need that knife for other things, for more important things. It's silly to me why somebody would want to beat on a knife. Now, rants aside, let me rant about something else. That's sharpening. Okay, I don't know where this fad of paper testing came from with sharpening, but again, let me just be blunt here. That's ignorant. That comes from a problem we have in the United States now of men having babies but never sticking around to raise their sons. Some jokers on the internet are running around telling everybody to paper test your knife. Well, one thing you're taught when you're 5 or 6 years old and just starting to carry a pocket knife around with you is you don't go around cutting paper with your pocket knife. It's wood fiber. Yeah, it's been treated and softened a little bit, but it's still wood fiber. You don't go hacking away on wood fiber with your knife. That's not what it's for. You just don't do it. Now, if you want to test your knife after you sharpen it and get it to that real sharp edge, you don't want a razor edge on your knife. That's another goofy, I'm kind of being blunt, maybe a little mean here, but I'm just being honest with you. That's another goofy, ignorant. The actual definition of ignorant. They just don't know what they're talking about. That is an ignorant thing to do. You do not want a razor edge on your work knife. You may want it on a knife that you do some very delicate work with, like fish or something, if you're filleting some small fish or making sushi or something like that. Then you may need a extremely razor sharp edge, But 99.9% of applications, you are never going to need a razor edge for. You're not trying to shave your face with this. So you don't want an extreme fine razor edge. Let me show you how sharp you want this knife. You want your work knife, and you don't need it any sharper than that. I don't care if you're skinning deer, cleaning your fish that you just caught, or working out in the yard, or whatever you're doing. You don't need your knife razor sharp. You need it sharp enough to do this right here, and this is going to look a little crude, I know. And you may not have woolly mammoth arms like I do, but this is how you test your knife, by the way. You don't paper test. You take your knife right here, and you just do this number right here. And you just want that knife to be taking hair. Okay? You don't want to be shaving with your knife. That's all you want to do, is just take a little hair. That is as sharp as you need it. You don't need it to where it actually shaves. You don't need all of that stuff. That's too sharp. That's not going to hold up. And if you just have to cut something, find yourself some soft plastic, an old water bottle or something like that, a Walmart bag, or a piece of styrofoam plate. Cut something soft like that if you just have to cut something. Don't cut paper. Don't test your knife with paper. Besides, there's a little trick you use keeping the tension just right and keeping the paper lined up just right to when guys are doing that little paper test anyway. It's a joke and a farce anyway. So it's just, don't do it. Don't cut paper, and don't get your knife razor sharp. There, rant concluded. All right, the Mora 4.1 inch CraftLine Robust. I've had it for several years. It's been through the ringer. It's held up great. No problems. Again, the only problem I have really is with the sheath and the fact that you can't hook every type of Mora knife with it. That should be universal. One more thing about a failure point here. You can see it's starting to get a little bit weak right here, but that's still going to last me several more years. Now, that's the only real complaint I have about the sheath. You can live without hooking other knives to it. But this clip is a little bit, you can see where it's been stretching. Eventually that's going to break and that's going to fail. But that's not a huge deal. I'm not really that worried about it. But I really highly recommend the Mora CraftLine. I think it's about $16 nowadays. Inexpensive, but very durable, high quality. This knife punches well above its weight. An American brand knife of this same quality would run you about 40 bucks. This one's only $16. Made in Sweden. It's not made in China. Fine knife. I highly recommend it. It's held up with me for years, and I have other Mora carbon steel knives. Maybe I'll review them one day soon, but I highly recommend the Mora CraftLine Robust. Fine work knife. Excellent working fishing knife. So go pick you one up. 16 bucks. You can't beat it. And get 3 or 4 of them. I really like them. Well, I thank you for watching this video. Pardon my ranting. I know I ranted and raved a little bit on this video, but I appreciate you coming here and checking out this long-winded review of mine. This is Moderate Fanatic. I hope you have a good day, and I do not have a catchphrase.